earningly to one another, and that they are ready to be responsible for and deliver the infrastructure that lays in their respective areas, or rather for the organizational and real provisions and for the use in the existing union. The older a human being becomes, the more hurt and wounded are the reactions of very many vis-à-vis aging and the age itself, and that again is a strong drive for them to fall into severe addictions and vices, especially alcohol and drugs, as well as medications that numb the consciousness. In turn, an impoverishment in regards to the thinking feeling occurs, as well as a social isolation, where in many cases suicide is the final result, indeed for both males and females, although males outweigh females when it comes to the increased suicidal tendency, which increases especially with increasing age and after retirement. And in fact, in this day and age the number of suicides is rising strongly, because the more time that passes, the more human beings there are who no longer find any purpose in life and are weary of living. Truly, in regards to a conscious and responsible evolution, human beings impoverish more and more, consequently they become incapable of thinking and acting humanely and become unfit for life, and through suicide they seek a wrongly hoped for release. And the more the world population increases uncontrollably, the more human beings become impersonal, foreign as well as indifferent to one another. Thereby the isolation of the individual is just as pre-programmed as are the vices of idleness, conscious and parasitic inactiveness and unwillingness to work, as are also the giving up of every work and activity, as well as the mental and physical fitness during the pre- and post-retirement life. The suicide of human beings is played down scandalously and even promoted through the state by allowing those irresponsible ones with a lust to kill to practice their trade of indirect assisted suicides. In fact, among young people, but above all among retirees in particular, suicide has, in its general form, become a symptom for a very widespread identity crisis, and for a wrongly conceived senselessness of life. As already mentioned, alcoholism, medication abuse and drug addiction also play a major role, which is, however, as a rule, wrapped in silence or even ignored, in spite of being alarm signals for a broken psyche. The young, like the old, who are in danger of becoming addicted, are affected by this, though the number affected constantly rises for those who scrape by in life as retirees. The young alcohol, drug and medication addicts, as well as the work-shy and idlers, go to seed in life and end up down and out on the street, become tramps, turn to crime, become ill by contracting HIV, etc., and end up as a corpse in the gutter, or are placed in institutions only to again succumb to their addiction and vice after their discharge. Whereas the early and old age retirees are placed in nursing and old age homes and are maltreated with psychotropic drugs in order to keep them quiet so that they do not generate too much work. But that is in no way of any help, quite to the contrary, since human beings, young like old, who are placed in institutions and homes and have no duties, no work or other valuable activity, hopelessly go to seed, deteriorate and become ill. The young and old human beings who are affected in this way are released from their life and duties, and precisely this being the number one factor, is what leads to heavy depressions as well as to rebellion against the governmental system, the social order, and the law. But this is of no surprise, because there is no future orientation for the idlers, work-shy, inactive, addicts and reprobates, as well as for the early and old age retirees when they are dealt with in this way. There are exceptions among the old age pensioners, yet these exceptions are in constant decline because seniors are more and more only observers when it comes to the real life that takes place outside of their circle of influence. This is also equally valid for the strikers, the alcohol, drug and medication addicts, the work-shy, inactive and idlers. Truly no one waits for them in an honorable way, since no one expects anything worthwhile from them, so they are, in a social sense, simply written off and dead. Idlers, those inactive and work-shy, addicts and reprobates are placed on the sidelines, where they vegetate and degenerate in the gutter. Early retirees and old-age pensioners are also frequently pushed onto the sidelines and are removed of every responsibility concerning societal involvement, and this results in creating the same existential void that develops in the addicts, reprobates, idlers and those work-shy and inactive. All these human beings, young like old, are insufficiently or not at all positioned in the middle of society and have no position in the public space where they would be able to participate responsibly. The social participation is completely withheld from them, even though the human being is a social being and only develops properly through his or her positive and responsible-minded action in the community. Truly, we as responsible human beings cannot afford to have all these young and old human beings standing on the sidelines of life only because they have fallen outside of the social framework or have reached the retirement age. Thus, it is essential that an appropriate culture be developed where all these human beings are included and are able to lead their lives in a social way. The young freaks may not be simply written off, just as the retirees may not be allowed to simply withdraw themselves or be neglected, but they must occupy themselves with all conceivable possibilities concerning work or any other valuable activity, and in fact also in the social sense, within society and also in politics. Freaks of all kinds must be taught and informed through governmental efforts the correct and positive way to lead a life so that they can find their way from their addictions, vices, their aversion to work, their inactiveness and idleness to a proper life of work and to being part of society, while those young and old who are in retirement must be protected from each and every discrimination that labels them as being unfit for social, community and political activities. Any exclusion of human beings from the social life and society is criminal and is in no way suitable for the future. All the human being's prosperity is dependent on creativity and innovativeness, or rather on the capability of renewing and changing, on the planned and controlled changes and reforms in the social system through new ideas, techniques and political progress. The point is not to require the freaks and pensioners to unwillingly commit themselves as temporary stand-ins for any work or activities, but to instruct them in regards to their responsibility and to show them ways and give them possibilities so that they are able to find something of value to do and not fall into depressions, addictions and vices etc. They must be treated and spoken to as jointly responsible human beings capable of working and carrying out tasks who can take on a position in the public life, which will be fulfilling for them. Nothing is accomplished by simply paying freaks, addicts, reprobates, work-shy, fake invalids, idlers and other inactive ones and malingers a ridiculous pension/benefit and by increasing the pension of retirees when they are abandoned and shut out from the common work and job process. This does not necessarily mean that a gainful employment is to be pursued, but any work or other activity through which the consciousness, thoughts, feelings, psyche and body are able to be kept healthy and also through which a release from addictions, vices and depressions occurs or through which they are prevented. And if the human being, while in his or her younger and middle years or in his or her pre-retirement or retirement life, pursues a job or other worthwhile activity, then he or she is presented time and again with new liberties in various ways. And when the work or other valuable activity is carried out voluntarily and in liberty, then all compulsions disappear and new valuable perspectives present themselves again and again. In this way the daily routine is no longer characterized by a programmed system and by competition, whereby an unrecognized development potential concerning creativity frequently comes to light. This is a new liberty, which is equally valid for both man and woman as well as for young persons and the old who are retired. And truly each and every human being has it in their own hands to change their life for the better, to give it a new direction through a reasonable work or other valuable activity, since everyone is the master of their own destiny. Billy Edward Albert Meier 0058 Am. Semiaza Silver Star Center June 20, 2008. Translated by Willem Mondrian. The end.